Hello, and welcome to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. This is our Zettelkasten week, and this is our map where we go into a little more detail on what we have to share this week. And without further ado, I will turn it right over to Victoria to start us off. Victoria?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the map. So today for the Zettelkasten section, what we wanted to do is, for my part, I want to take you through how to wrangle what can become unruly note cards. Trust me when I say, if you could see my desk, you would be laughing with me because there are cards everywhere. But here's the thing. You don't have to get hung up on the system and the numbering. The important thing is to give yourself a heading and know that you will make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of how your system organically grows. You can always course correct for your mistakes, though Kathleen would caution you, don't go in with your whiteout and your reconstruction and changing everything around and renumbering. Number one, that's wasted effort. And number two, that's robbing yourself of the discoveries that you can make because of the order that your cards are in. My rule is, it's just like when I talk about it in my writing classes, minimum viable unit. That's the minimum little piece of writing that you can do that qualifies as a finished section. For me, it's about 600 words. When it comes to my cards, I want the minimum viable organization. That just means getting same with same into enough of a recognizable order that when I go to look for something, I know that what I'm seeking is going to be there. So we already know the key piece of that is the index. So as long as you've indexed nicely, you're good to go because your index keywords will always take you to what you're looking for. But specifically, let's say that you have labeled a card based on a particular scene or chapter. And let's say that that scene or chapter is number 14. Okay, if it's number 14 in your cards and you're cruising along and all of a sudden you realize, holy cow, I've got 5 different cards that fit under that 14. And now I know that those are going to go into this particular scene. Well, without getting too far into the numbering weeds, it's very simple to capture all of those cards that maybe you've numbered 14 A, B, and C. Okay, you're going to capture those under that scene group. So let's say, for example, you've numbered that scene because it's your first plot point and it's 7001, which that would be the first potential plot point in my plot system. It would fall under 7001. That's one of the first things that happen in the story. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to go into those 14 cards and I'm going to add 7001 at the front of them. And then I'm going to put my ABCs behind and I'm going to file all of those in the front of my plot box under 7001. Easy peasy. So then when I'm actually working on my story, I'm going to pull all of those 7001 cards. Maybe I've got the 14 ABC and maybe I've got 15 A and B. I'm going to pull those out. I'm going to lay them out so that I have them while I'm working. And I can just look at those little pieces and I might remember this first card. Oh yeah, that's a card about what happened when they were sitting in a cafe and it has the details of the cafe on it. And then maybe that my next card has a bit of a conversation on it. And the upshot of that conversation is a revelation that's relevant to that part of the story. So I'm going back and forth between those cards that I've laid out because I've captured them under that 7001 plot point and the work that I'm doing or the drafting as I'm writing up that scene that happens in the cafe with that bit of conversation and maybe with those elements of the scene that include the way it smells, other people and noise that are around. I'm using those cards to prompt showing, not telling, and engaging all of those senses as I draft out that scene. So that's one example of how you may have collected a set of details, but the important thing is keeping them together. And then once you have an idea of where they go in the scene or in the plot, you're going to put those over in the plot box, assign them that plot box number, and then you have them when you're ready to sit down and start writing. It's really that simple. So as you start to think about how am I going to sort and order all this information, just remember, always keep your story or your project in mind, pile those pieces together where they make the most sense that you're going to pull from them to do the writing, and then capture them under that piece of plot wherever you think they might go in the story. And then just let the writing take care of itself. So that is today's tip for making sure that you collect those ideas, that you keep them together in that pool or that collection, and then ultimately you place them in the box where you think they might go in your plot. And don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about getting it right or wrong. Just capture those ideas and get them installed where they might go, and then let your writer's mind take care of it. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Kathleen.
Thank you, Victoria. That was very insightful. Very interesting how you can collect all of those ideas independently and then find a place for them in your Zettelkasten where they're going to fit in with the story. I love that two-stage approach. That's pretty neat. Well, what I'm going to do for my part is I'm going to show you some cards that you might have in your box already if you've come from Reawaken the Dream of Writing, where I already introduced the Zettelkasten using a different numbering system, because at that point in time, Victoria and I hadn't yet met, and I didn't have her to draw on or vice versa. So now I'm going to show you how simply and beautifully the character cards from Victoria will fit in with Reawaken the Dream of Writing. And then the next month, when we have our Zettelkasten system, I will show you how to do that also with Victoria's plot points and where they will slip in beautifully. So let's go over to the down-facing camera so I can show you what's going on. Now, if you do not have a system going yet that's either from mine or from Victoria's, I would suggest that you lean towards Victoria's for all of the development that she has and the book that's coming out that's specifically about it. In my world, it was 3 chapters or 3 lessons, and she has an entire book on the subject. She has a lot more detail. On the other hand, there's one little thing that my system has that hers doesn't have, and that mine is designed around multiple different works, and hers was designed around just creating one. But having both of them side by side will give you an idea of where you would go for multiple works. So this is kind of a lesson to help the people along. All of you who invested a lot in building up my numbering system, you haven't wasted any effort. Here's how the two fit together. So I'm going to switch over to the down-facing camera. Okay, if you are coming over from Reawaken the Dream of Writing, you probably have a card that says 4,000 projects. And these are all directory cards that I'm showing you. And you began yours the same way that I suggested. And down here at 4,400 was your first project. And you knew, and I told you that 4,500 would be your next, and so on. And after you got up to 4,900, you could even go with 4A00 if you become very, very prolific. But of course, by then you will have modified your own Zettelkasten so custom to you that you won't be flipping back here for how to do it. Within the 4,400 then, that was broken down into characters, locations and scenes, history, backstory, message, story arc, and planning notes. Tiny spoiler alert, next month we're going to come in with the story arc, but today we're going to focus on characters. And I'm going to show you how the mechanism that I taught with characters will blend perfectly with what Victoria has taught about characters. Now for mine, I'm working on a book called Jonathan and the Dinosaur Notebox. And my characters under 4410, I just declared them as 1, 2, 3, and so on down through the list. And that works fine, and you may certainly adopt it. But Victoria had an interesting dynamic that mine does not have. And I want to show you how hers could fit in as well. For Victoria, she goes another step in organization. She has her female lead, her male lead, and her villain. And then she has individual characters that come under her female lead, the female lead herself, her mother, her best friend, and so on. So she has another level of organization. Now notice there's plenty of space in my numbering to incorporate that extra level of organization. So you can either you can either break it down or you can go direct to characters. In my case, I didn't so much have a female lead, male lead. My 2 main characters were a little boy and his grandfather. So I don't have a romantic interest going on in my story. Now, where do we go from there? I'm going to give you Jonathan as an example. If you followed my work, you know that we created a character profile diagram for each of our characters and a memory prompt list that was an important way of remembering how and why we gave that character trait to that character. Well, what's left? We have as many numbers as we need, but here we are with 3. Character matrix victorious. It fits absolutely perfectly right into that slot. And even to the point where, Victoria uses letters of the alphabet and it fits perfectly in there. So you could do 3A for the name, B, C, all the way down. She goes all the way up to the letter O for nightmares and dreams. So all of Victoria's character development cards fit perfectly within this same structure. And your character profile diagram and your memory prompt list stay right at the front, because if you're doing a character-driven story, you will always want to bear in mind what what his character traits are like. And that will also inform you as you are filling out these cards. You're going to get more insight as you go through these cards as to how he got that personality that he has from your discovery of his character traits. And next time, we'll show you how this breaks down into the plot points and the 24 plot beats. We'll cover that next time with a Zettelkasten. So for you folks, that's how you can simply tie them together. I hope you see how easy it is. These two systems fit beautifully together. Numbers, and that's the main takeaway. These numbers that we put on things are totally arbitrary. They're just geography. They just help us find our cards. And you get to put whatever numbering system makes sense to you. You've got two systems to work from, and you can see that they both fit together beautifully. So whatever you devise will fit together as well. And what would you like to add, Victoria?
Well, first, that was beautiful. Absolutely. Any way you choose to navigate your way through your system, you'll make it work. Just trust your sense of inner logic and trust your sense of how the pieces fit together, whether you're working on a specific project, maybe you're working from one of Kathleen's classes, you're working on character development, whatever the theme is, just have faith that you will figure that organization out. And if you need to course correct, the system is very forgiving. So it's always better to just get started and go, and don't get hung up on the numbers, because you will find your way. And there's a lot of us here who are now veterans that are always available to help if you have a question. Join us over in LiLLiPub.org and please drop us those questions. We're happy to jump on a call or have a back and forth and help workshop ideas so that you know what you need to do. You're never alone. So as always, thank you so much for joining us. We love having you every week, and we will see you next time.
Thank you again. And don't forget, we gather in LiLLiPub.org, and we have a fantastic Zoom call on Saturday that will let you workshop your writing and get some excellent advice to keep you motivated to write and keep you on track with your writing. So please join us, LiLLiPub.org. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.